Hello, and welcome back to Meow This with your friendly TA, Ray. Totally me. Meow, in our last episode, we talked about the id, ego, and superego. And I mentioned that when the dynamics between these three get out of hand, Freud and his daughter Anna, she gets some of that credit, a lot of that credit, posited that we cope through defense mechanisms. So, Freudian defense mechanisms have two things in common. One, they work on an unconscious level, and two, they distort reality in some way. So, to give you some real-world examples of how we use these defense mechanisms, I've enlisted the help of my fabulous roommate, Macaulay Culkin, and our beloved bag of chips. Now let's hop right in. Rationalization. Mr. Cluckins, you left just crumbs in the bag of chips again for me to deal with. Well, actually, if you take all the crumbs in the chip bag and you put them in your mouth at the same time, it's like eating a handful of chips. It's all going to the same place. So, Mr. Cluckins is trying to explain away his actions in an attempt to absolve himself of guilt, which is painful. This is what we're doing. We're coping. Now, next. Mr. Cluckins, you seriously just ate my last bag of chips? Nope. Nope. I didn't do that. I just watched you. I refuse to accept your criticism. Nope. Denial. He's straight up denying that he ate my last bag of chips. So when we're looking for those defense mechanisms, we're looking for things like refuse to accept, really could not see, those sorts of ideas. It's pretty straightforward. Mr. Cluckins, I really wanted that last bag of chips, and you ate them all. You're the worst roommate ever. Regression. So regression is essentially the opposite of progression. So I regress to a childlike behavior, like tantrums and thumb sucking, to cope with the painful experience of Mr. Cluckins eating the last of my chips. What? You're a chicken and you love chips. You have an addiction to chips. No, I mean, I'm not sure that that's accurate. Are you sure you're not thinking about yourself? I mean, I don't really look like a chicken. Alright. Chicken. Chicken. So, what Mr. Cluckins is doing is projecting himself onto me, and his unacceptable behaviors are being projected onto me. He's the projector, and I'm the screen. So he's seeing himself in me. Projection. Macaulay Culkin ate the last of my chips. God, I'm so mad. What?
I was just walking by.
Yeah, that's right. You keep walking. So what have I done? I've displaced my anger about my chips and Mr. Cluckins eating them onto a less threatening person or object. Poor Mr. Bunky. Displacement. You remember that epic chip battle when you ate the last bag of chips last time, Mr. Cluckins? Yeah, I was pulling potato chips out of my hair. You were pulling potato chips out of your feathers. I'm sorry, I don't remember. How can you not remember? I mean, that was pretty insane. I'm sorry, I honestly don't. So that is repression. So he's taking this painful experience and trying to remove it from his memory. And what it ends up looking like is he honestly can't remember. That's the word you're looking for, is that they can't remember what happened. Repression. Reaction formation. Meow. Macaulay Cluckins. It's not really a bad chicken. He walks around like he's some amazing rooster with a chip on his shoulder and he's just going to eat all the chips that he wants. But on the inside, he's just a henny penny who thinks he's undeserving of chips and their affection. So that is a reaction formation. It's when you feel one way and then have exaggerated characteristics in the opposite direction, right? So really, he feels like he doesn't deserve chips. Oh, but he's like, I deserve all the chips, outwardly. Now, what if Macaulay Culkin went on to write a best-selling novel and went around to talk about how he overcame and dealt with his chip addiction? So he took his chip addiction and he turned it into something really positive that benefited him and the world at large even. Bonus. So he sublimated it. So think of the idea of something being sublime. So he's transformed it in a way to something good. And lastly, it's my chips. I'm gonna eat the last of the chips. So this is identification. So I'm taking on the characteristics of someone I perceive as more powerful or better able to cope. So I identify with them. Yeah, I'm going to keep it short. I hope this was helpful. Big thank you to Mr. Macaulay Cluckins and the Bunky. I'm going to go eat some chips, meow.